Hi, this is Mr. Abair, and I'm going to show you some of the equations you can do with Leonardo's Vitruvian Man. One of the things you can do is translate some of the text into math. Here's one thing that Leonardo wrote on the drawing. From the top of the head to the bottom of the chin is 1/8 of a man. And by that, Leonardo means that this distance, from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, is 1/8 of the whole height of the man, which, by the way, is also the side of the square. In order to translate that text into math, you have to take some of the words and turn them into variables. So from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, we're going to call that the height of the head, and we're going to represent that with h, the letter h. When Leonardo says 1/8 of a man, he means 1/8 of the height of a man, and we're going to represent the height of a man with the letter m. Okay, so we have this text from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin. Remember, that's h. And we have a man. That's m. We need to do something with these phrases. Is 1/8 of. So when you see is and you want to translate that into math, you replace it with equals. Good to know. And the word of usually translates to multiplied by when you are using math. 1/8 we're actually just going to replace with 1/8, the fraction. So here's what this looks like. H is equal to 1/8 m. So let me translate this back into English. The height of the head is 1/8 of the height of the man. Notice that there is no multiplication symbol between 1/8 and m. That's a convention of algebra. When we write numbers like this, we don't have to write the multiplication symbol, because if we write 1/8 or any number really right next to a variable like m, we know that that means we're multiplying these two numbers. Let's try it with one of the other things Leonardo wrote. From the top of the head to above the chest is 1/6 of a man. And Leonardo actually drew a line here where he's talking about above the chest. So for me, I'm thinking of this as sort of the neck and head, the height of the neck and head. And I'm going to represent that with n, because I've already used h. So let n be the height from the neck to the head, from this line to the top of the square. And m is the height of the whole man, or the side of the square. Leonardo says from the top of the head to above the chest, this area is 1/6 of a man. So n is 1/6 of m, right? And we'll write that like this with an equation. N is 1/6 of m. Let's try it with just one more of the things Leonardo wrote on the picture. A palm is 4 fingers. And as you can see from his illustration, what he means is that the width of the palm is equal to the width of 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. So we're going to say that P is the width of a palm and F is the width of a finger. Why don't you go ahead and write the equation that you think this translates to? And you can pause if you don't want me to show you right now. I wrote P is equal to 4F. A palm, P, is equals 4 fingers, F. That's how we translate text into math. Here's something else you can do. You can solve this equation for a different variable. In this case, we say the equation is solved for P in terms of F because it says that P is equal to something, and the something contains another variable F. What if we wanted to rearrange that and solve this equation for F in terms of P? In other words, to have it say F equals something containing P. Well, there is a method for that, and to do it we're going to use properties of equality. I want to remind you of these. The symmetric property, of course, just says that if A equals B, then B equals A. Well, that means that we could take an equation written this way and just reverse it. We're going to use that in a minute. The multiplication property says that we can take some number and multiply it by both sides of the equation. And the division property says we can take some number as long as it's not 0 and divide both sides of the equation by that number. We're going to use both of these in a minute. So let's rearrange P equals 4F until it says F equals something. So we were given P equals 4F, a palm is equal to 4 fingers. We're going to use the division property of equality now to rewrite this so it says P divided by something equals 4F divided by something. And we're going to choose the number 4 so that we can sort of undo this 4 that's next to F. Like that. P divided by 4 is equal to 4F divided by 4. The next step is to simplify. 4F divided by 4 is just F. So on this side we're going to have F. On the other side of the equation we're going to rewrite P divided by 4 to look like 1/4 P. So there's the new version of our equation. And now we're going to use the symmetric property of equality to reverse what's on this side and what's on that side. So that our equation says F equals. And it says F is equal to 1/4 P. It sort of makes sense, doesn't it? If a palm is 4 fingers, then a finger is 1/4 of a palm, right? In much the same way that if a dollar is 4 quarters, then a quarter is 1/4 of a dollar. Let's do that with one more equation. Here's the one about the head and the height of the whole man. The head is 1/8 of a man. So let's solve this equation for m. First, you're given the head equals 1/8 of a man, h equals 1/8 m. Now, use the multiplication property of equality to multiply both sides by the same number so that you'll be able to sort of undo this 1/8. Can you guess what the number is? Yeah, it's 8. So on one side we write 8 times h. Notice we don't need to use that multiplication dot. And on the other side we write 8 times whatever was already there. 8 times this whole expression. And we use parentheses here because we can't just write 8 1/8. That would look like 8 and 1/8. We could have used a multiplication dot, but in algebra we tend to use parentheses instead of a multiplication symbol. Next step is to simplify. 8 times 1/8 is 1, so on this side what will we have? Just m. On this side we will still have 8h. The new equation is 8h equals m. One more step, use the symmetric property of equality to reverse the two sides. Did you write this? Good. Alright, so in summary, when you translate text into math, remember, phrases that mean unknown quantities, such as the height of a head, become variables, like h. Is always becomes the equal symbol. Of becomes multiplying, although, as you've seen, you don't always write a multiplication symbol. So that's a little tricky. And then the other part, to solve equations for other variables, you can use the appropriate properties of equality, usually the multiplication, addition, subtraction, division properties of equality, and then perhaps ultimately the symmetric property of equality. And you rearrange the equation to say x equals something, or h equals something, or p equals something. Whatever equation you're looking for, you rearrange it to be solved for that variable.